الحمد لله أرحم الراحمين وخير الرازقين أحاط بكل شيء علما وأحصى كل شيء عددا ألا يعلم من خلقه وهو اللطيف الخبير وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صاحب الخلق العظيم والقلب الرحيم الهادي إلى صراط المستقيم اللهم يا علي يا عظيم أسألك أن تصلي وتسلم على حبيبنا وشفيعنا وقدوتنا وحبيبنا محمد اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله أما بعد عباد الله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله وما آتاكم الرسول فخذوه وما نهاكم عنه فانتهوا وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this faith, the faith of Islam, the faith of Sayyid Ibn Walad Adnan, Nabina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, the one whom Allah Azza wa Jal has connected and associated safety and security in this world and the next with recognizing him sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. That you cannot enter into Jannah as a Muslim even if you believe in Allah. If you don't believe in Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, you don't enter into Jannah or Islam, which tells you something about the greatness of this Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. If you believe in one God and you believe in all the attributes of Allah and you believe in the 99 names of Allah and you said La ilaha illallah, we have to demand of you, finish off, wa Muhammad Rasulullah. And that tells you that this Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam is great in Allah. Because Allah could say, recognize me, and that's enough. But Allah is saying, no, recognize me. We also have to recognize him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that's why the Shahada has two parts, La ilaha illallah wa Muhammad Rasulullah. If somebody came today in Jummah and said, I want to be Muslim, La ilaha illallah, I'll stop there. We say, that's not enough. You have to recognize Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. خير الأمة أخرجت للناس, the best of nations brought out to people. And the khayriyah, the goodness, the righteousness that's connected to this ummah is because of the head of the ummah, وهو Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. And because of this, we find that from the signs, alamat al-nabuwah, from the signs of prophecy that Islam has, that if you were to look at, that these are proofs of the validity and the soundness and the proof that Islam is haqq. There are proofs. Some of them are scientific, some of you may know. But the majority are not scientific. The majority have to do with him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but also his message. That unlike previous religions, Bani Israel, Musa's people, Isa's people, these previous prophets, unlike their messages that have had tahrif, they've been changed and altered, the same cannot be said about Islam. The same cannot be said about Islam. That Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا ذِكْرًا وَإِنَّا لَهُ الْحَافِظُونَ. We have revealed this remembrance. And the ulama say it's Islam. And Allah says, and I will preserve it. I'm going to preserve this deen. Unlike the previous, which they've been changed according to what we believe, and according to academic scrutiny, they'll also say the same. There's been things that have been changed in those books. The books today are not the same books they were before. And you've got people now, academics telling you that, who are neutral on the topic, saying, yeah, but come to Islam, you can't say the same thing. The book on the shelf there is the same book on the shelf in Morocco, is the same book on the shelf in India, is the same book on the shelf in the Middle East. It's the same book that you read, it's the same book that your father read, it's the same book your grandfather read, it's the same book that your great-grandfather read, it's the same book for 1,000 years, it's the same book 1,446 years, it's the same book. And people who have insaf, like some Christians do, they'll tell you, like one said to me, because we admire Islam. I said, why? MashaAllah. Because your book hasn't been changed. The Quran, said we admire it hasn't been changed. We admire that. We respect that. MashaAllah. Inshallah, he finishes off Muhammad Rasulullah and يدخل معانا inshallah Jannah, inshallah, Ameen. But the issue here is that he recognizes something that is profound, that the book, the Quran, has been preserved. And we should be proud. And we should be happy. We should also learn the book as well, obviously. But there's something there for us to be happy of. But it's also a proof of prophecy. Because Allah has promised He is going to preserve it. And people will attempt to change it. People will attempt to do things to it. But they will all fail. And they failed. They've all failed. And they will continue to fail. Wa'ad min Allah. Promise from Allah. But then we also have the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We also have the sayings of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which we find also there that his sayings have been preserved. His sayings, his ahadith have been preserved. And if you understand the science of hadith, ilm rijal, as the ulama call it, it's amazing the amount of work and scrutiny, analysis, cross-analysis that has been done of the ahadith. It's a miracle. And some of the non-Muslims, when they've looked at the science of how the Muslims have preserved the hadith, the structure of hadith, how they've recognized and classified hadith, they said this is something that the Muslims, if they knew, they should be proud. In the time before computers, the amount of work that has gone in to recognize each man in the chain of transmission and woman in the chain of transmission, and to analyze who they are, to have a database. Before databases were created, a database of men who are truthful in their narrations, to scrutinize every single life of the individual in the narration and to preserve hadith. It's a miracle. A miracle of Islam. You can't find the same amount of preservation and scrutiny with any other prophet. Ila Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa'ad min Allah. From Allah Azza wa Jalla. Allah's promised, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu al-hafidhun. We're going to preserve this. It's the last faith. It's going to be preserved. It's going to be looked after. And we should be happy. We should all be happy with that. But, here's the but. When you, as I do from time to time, I get myself out of my comfort zone and I talk to people who aren't Muslim, who maybe have read a bit about Islam or know a bit about Islam or maybe think they know about Islam, as I frequently do. If you can have brothers move down, inshallah, there's brothers standing here. If you can move down, let them sit, inshallah. The spaces, just move down, inshallah. And this one individual said to me, also a Christian, said to me, he said, also she said, that you Muslims, you pride yourself on Islam being preserved. And okay, let's go along with that. And Islam being the religion of mercy. And Islam kada wa kada, she said, that's okay. Yes. But she said, how come? She said, how come? Why is it that we find, despite you Muslims saying Islam is a religion of peace, why is it that we find verses in your Quran that say this, that shall kill people? Why is it we find hadith, as one man said, that says this and this? Why do we find in your book it says this? Why? And she picked out all these things. And we have to be secure enough in our faith to be able to respond. Give you another example. A few years ago, here upstairs in the main area of the university, in between the clock tower and the guild, that open area, city, whatever you call it, the university square. Brothers, mashallah, from the Islamic Society many years ago, there was a stall. They were doing da'wah, mashallah. And a man came, wasn't Muslim. And a man said to the brother on the table, oh, you know, mashallah, in your religion, you have a hadith called by Bukhari. And the brother was surprised. Oh, mashallah, you know Bukhari. Are you Muslim? No, I'm not Muslim. But the hadith says this, and this, and this. And the brother was shocked. He didn't know how to answer. He didn't know how to reply. And it made him look, he felt it looked bad because it came as a shock to him. He didn't know that was hadith existed. And it gave a bad image of Islam, quote unquote. And he didn't know. He came to me and goes, Imam, the brother told me, this guy told me this. I didn't know how to respond. He embarrassed me. That's shame on you. You don't know how to respond to these things. But there's a greater issue. There's a lack of knowledge. We have brothers and sisters who will commit 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to a course and commit a year and a master's and they commit 3 years to a PhD. And mashallah, and fiha khair. That's great. But committing to 2 hours to learn Islam, nowhere to be seen, nowhere to be heard, not interested, not committed enough. At the age when Islam is being attacked, left, right, and center, in the media, in social media, within politics, it's been attacked. And the people to defend it don't know anything. Or a great deal of them don't know enough. Let's be more accurate. Don't know enough. Some of you know, some of you don't know. Some of you think you know, and you don't know. Some of you know, mashallah, some don't know. And the majority don't know enough. And this is the reality. We have to understand we don't know enough. But the issue here, to go on to my point, inshallah, that these people, they will say, why is it that your book is one? That's great. We Christians have several different books. And okay, fair enough, you guys have one book. That's great. But they'll say, and as this person said to me, but you have different interpretation. You go online, Mr. Sheikh Google, and you get something else. You go to the next page, you're going to get something else. You go to the third page, you get something else. You go to another page, you go something else. You go to another website, you're going to get some. You have the same book, but you are more. There's more confusion amongst Muslims than there are with us. And I stopped at that point, not because I can't answer. It's because this individual has hit on something, a reality that for most of us, we don't even know. Which is, yes, the Quran has been preserved, na'am. The ahadith have been preserved, na'am. But more importantly, what's the point of the book being preserved and the ahadith being preserved if the understanding has not been preserved? The correct understanding, the methodology of how to interpret correctly hasn't been preserved. Then what's the point? You have a book that no one understands. What's the point? But Allah Azza wa Jalla, when He talks about the religion the Quran or the religion being preserved, He's not just talking about the Quran. He's not just talking about hadith. He's talking about the Quran preserved, the hadith has been preserved, but the understanding, the correct understanding, the methodology of understanding has also been preserved. And that's the greatest miracle. But the question that this individual who wasn't Muslim, inshallah, become Muslim, inshallah, Ameen. The question that they're asking, there's so many differences of interpretation. There's so many things saying the complete opposite of each other. This sheikh says this, this imam says this, and this one's saying this, and this one's saying that, and this one, and all from the same book. What does that mean? And this is something we have to understand. This is a crisis. This is a crisis. And I'm not saying differences that are good. I know differences that talk about Jannah or Nar. Those type of differences that one the alim, so-called sheikh will say A, B, and C. If you do A, B, and C, you're a kafir. Another sheikh says A, B, and C is okay. Another sheikh says A, B, and C is bid'ah. Another sheikh says A, B, and C. The same thing is recommended. But when they don't know what to do because we lack the understanding of how to understand our faith correctly. And that's why you have this moja, these waves. And that's why I say. And one sister said to me on Monday, On social media, I hear too many things. Too many things. I get confused. I say, you need to hear what I say every single year to the students. So what is it? Don't take Islam from TikTok or Instagram or these other avenues. You take Islam from afwah rijal, from the mouths of men. You sit with the ulama. Don't sit at home, TikTok, Instagram, and then you get brainwashed. You don't know what you're talking about. And you end up majnoon, subhanAllah. You get two extremes on social media. You're either going to get somebody who's mutashaddid, very extreme. Everyone's a kafir, everyone's mubtada, everyone's mushrik. Or you get the other extreme. Kullu halal. Everything's halal. Everything halal. Take a hijab off. Do what you want. Both of them are a symptom of one problem. The correct interpretation of this faith. This brings us now to the issue at hand. What is the correct understanding of our faith? Who is the correct understanding of our faith with? What does it look like? Inshallah, we'll try to tiptoe around that, inshallah, and give it some tips on that in the next khutbah. Walhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبنا وشفيعنا وقدوتنا محمد وصلي وسلم عليه وعلى آله أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله. So as I said, yes, this book, which is more than a book, has been preserved. Every verse preserved. Even down to the recitation, the tajweed, the recitation, the different recitations have also been preserved. A miracle. And the hadith have been preserved and been scrutinized and analyzed and classified. MashaAllah, by the greatest minds. MashaAllah, a miracle. But also more miraculous and more amazing is that the correct understanding, the methodology of interpretation of that book and those hadith has also been preserved. Inshallah. And this is where we talk to, inshallah, the vast, if you want to make this simple for you, inshallah, it's a big topic, stick to what the vast majority of ulama for the vast majority of time have said. On any given matter, stick with the majority of ulama. If there's difference of opinion, stick to the majority. Who said that? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the hadith he said, if you see difference of opinion, and this is wallahi, this is a miracle. A miracle, because when the Prophet says, if you see, it means you are going to see it. So he's telling you, look, this is going to happen. He said, if you see difference of opinion, and we see difference of opinion, do we not? MashaAllah, even the Christians can see it now. Our dirty laundry is no longer inside, it's outside. Everybody can see it. The clash, the nizaa' that we have internally between ourselves. But the Prophet said, if you see this difference of opinion, the Prophet in the hadith said, stick with as-sawd al-a'zam, the greatest number. Stick with the greatest number of the ulama. Don't stick with the majority, stick with the greatest number. There is safety in number. And there are many hadiths that talk about that, inshallah, so we stick with the majority. But then you're going to ask me, who are the majority? And I'm going to say to you, my answer to that question is that, brother or sister, and those listening, there's a whole class Monday night. I'm going to begin to talk about answering some of these questions and these challenges. 5:30 inshallah ta'ala this Monday at room 502, the same room as that poster, lecture building 502 inshallah. I'm going to talk for several weeks about this topic. What is the correct interpretation? And who is it with? Is it with me? Is it with you? Is it with some? Who is it? How do you understand our faith correctly? So when somebody then comes on at you and says, you're a Muslim, aren't you? And you say, yes. Bukhari says this. You know what to say. If somebody says, the Quran said, kill them wherever you find them. And you don't know that, miskin. And I say, there's your verse of Quran there. There we go. You know how to reply. Why? Because you understand that you can't take verses of the Quran and Hadith out of context. There's a manhaj, there's a methodology of interpretation. But who does that? Who are they? This is what I'm aimed to explain to you, inshallah. this Monday. Brother and sister, inshallah, if you're committed to understand this deen, and if you're committed to الدفاع عن the deen, to kind of to protect this deen, come to the class, inshallah. Come to the class so you learn how to protect this deen, to stand up for the deen, stand up for Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa. People are saying all kinds of things about your prophet, and you have no knowledge. Ask you about medicine, mashallah alik. Ask you about dentistry, you know something. Ask you about your whatever studies you're doing, you know it. Ask you about Quran and Hadith, you don't know nothing. Musibah. And you should know. Because if you know, you defend Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Defend him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you have iman, don't let that people يضحكوا عن نبيكم. You laugh at Islam. عيب عليكم. You let that happen. But know something. So all you do, you come Monday. You sit down and listen. And I'll do the rest. If you can do that, alhamdulillah, fiya khair kabir. If you can't do that, then we'll make dua that you're able to do that one day, inshallah, sooner rather than later. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. اللهم صل وسلم على حبيبنا وشفيعنا وقدوتنا محمد وتبارك وتعالى عن ابي بكر وعثمان وعلي وعن جميع اصحابه واهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين وامهات المؤمنين. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الاحياء من الاموات. اللهم انظر اخواننا في غزه، اللهم انظر اخواننا في لبنان، اللهم انظر اخواننا في اليمن وفي فلسطين وفي العراق وفي السودان، وانظر اخواننا في كشمير. يا الله دماء المسلمين، يا الله دماء المسلمين، يا الله احفظ المسلمين، يا الله ارحم المسلمين، يا ارحم الراحمين، يا ارحم الراحمين، يا ارحم الراحمين. عباد الله آواكم الله، حفظكم الله، نصركم الله، أيادكم الله. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا العظيم يذكركم وصلوا على نبيكم محمد. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله. والله ذكر لك أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. إقامة الصلاة.